Buddy, this is Luke Reardon in our EDL 856 in our last module of Module 10. So with that being said, we'll get right on into it. So a quick summarization of what's going on in this case study. So some parents decided to leave the National PTA and function on their own. There was not a clear reason why they wanted to leave, but they did. With the PTA, we know that, or as I know in this case study, I'll be referring to myself as I. So I know that PTA does play a positive role in the kids' school experience and their educational learning. The leader of the PTA surprised me at an annual meeting, back to school meeting, to discuss the back to school night by presenting any changes to not only the school night but also many changes throughout the scholastic year. Things that include the smaller ones, the things that include like weekly focus groups, parent committees for discipline, teacher performance, curriculum, and school evaluation. So long story short, I need to make a decision on what to do, what's appropriate for these parents to be able to do, and if I'm going to succumb to what they want, and if it's in the best interest of the students and their learning. So some legal and ethical issues. There weren't a ton of legal issues that I could find, but some might have to do with FERPA, teacher contracts or negotiations with the board and the superintendent and the administration, state or federal curriculum guidelines, things that they might want to change that they cannot implement, and if there's some things we can get around or we don't understand, we could be in legal trouble for that. And then the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment protects everyone, and if anything they want to implement which could go against that and the hiring and just any sort of thinking from this new PTA that could go against that. Some ethical issues. All of us that are teachers, we understand what's going on here. This is just parent bias, protecting teachers, not feeling supported by administration is a huge thing across the country. It seems to me that we have a lot of principals and administration that want to please everybody, and knowing in that leadership role you cannot do that. It could potentially hinder teachers' relationship with students, and that could hinder their learning overall, I would say, if you don't have the relationship, because we all know that majority of our jobs are all about relationship. And professionalism. With that, what I say, and I'm going to talk about this later on as well, but just teachers not feeling like they're being treated as a professional is what it is what we went to school to be, and we are professional in our own individual classes, and just not being able to be treated like that can hurt our relationships with not only the community around us, but also our admin and even each other. So what's going on in one sentence? One sentence, I would say, this newly organized PTA wants more involvement in a variety of school affairs that may cause conflict with staff, stakeholders, and the community. So synthesizing people, so who's kind of involved? This involves everybody. It's not just this PTA, not just these parents, but it is the PTA, the parents, the classified staff, the school board, the stakeholders, and the students. We all got into this for students, and we need to, whatever decision is made at the end, we need to understand that it has to be in the best interest of our kids. So the place, since this is me, this is happening to me, in the future, I guess. This is where I am in Solomon, Kansas. We're pretty rural. We're farming and blue-collar community. A lot of people do have, the biggest percentage of graduates is just from high school. And we are primarily white, if that has anything to say. Anything to do with this. We are just a small, stereotypical town in Kansas. The program here, so this is a parent organization. They're a newly formed PTA that has no affiliation with the National PTA. I keep bringing that up because this is going to be a part of my decision at the end. So we'll get into that in a little bit. So to reviewing and prioritizing information, I'm doing this more in forms of questions. So first, I want to know why the PTA feels the need to be involved in these specific things. First, why do they feel a need to leave the National PTA? Why do they feel a need to become involved in what they wanted, such as discipline, curriculum, and that nature? I would like to know more about what sort. It seems like it's coming from an ill feelings towards how things are run or towards teachers. I'd like to know exactly why and what's going on, because I would have to get that information before I make a decision, even though I think I have enough information to make a decision from a professional standpoint. But I would like to know where they are coming from so we can address that from within. Bringing these up and sort of attacking, it seemed like you were sort of attacking myself as a principal and my calls by not informing me of the meeting they had before this annual meeting to discuss back to school night. I had no way of preparing, no way of seeing what their thought process was. So that needs to happen before and in the future. How can this affect each individual party involved? Do they have a right to what they're asking? And it is at the best interest of students. I keep going back to students. We all got into this for students. We need to understand and know that everyone's for students. This already, just the way that this new PTA came to this meeting, you can already see that there's division between the school system and the parents in this new PTA. So you would want to address that, because with that division, all that's going to do is hurt the students' learning. And unless you can have an entire unified front, then the students are going to be affected either one way or the other. So stakeholder consequences, relationships, teacher-parents, teacher-students, teacher-admin, even admin students, and any way you look at it, this can affect the relationships. Chain of command, student learning, going to that, hitting that student again. Decisions being made by people that do not see the system day to day. And also in a little bit, talk about chain of command again. But we'll get into that a little bit later on. And I did say, from a professional standpoint, I do think I have enough information to make a good decision, even though there are things I want to know, such as that first bullet point, like why do they feel a need to be involved in those things. Options and evaluation of options. So I can allow them to do what they ask for. I can allow them to sit in meetings and voice their opinion, but not be able to vote on any decisions that have to do with school operations or curriculum. So they can voice their opinions and know that they're heard. But for somebody that's not in the school system day to day, seeing how things are, then they really cannot. They can voice their opinions, but as far as the decisions made, decisions that will affect everyone within the school, probably need to be made by people that are in the school every day. Suspend the new organization structure and require them to become a part of the national PTA. Long story short, without guidelines, these are just a bunch of parents that trying to control the school. And just the way they went about it, like I talked about earlier, you can see a divisiveness between the people in the school and the people outside of the school. And just the way they came about it just seemed very unprofessional, and that worries me. That worries me in how they're not wanting to be unified. So here's my decision and implementation. I would choose to allow parents to sit in the meeting approved by the board. The reason I would want it to be approved by the board is because you need to remember these board members are elected officials. These are elected by the community. These are the representatives that should be sitting in and understand what's going on and sitting in these meetings. I would not allow their votes to be accounted for. They can voice their opinions, but again, they need to trust that we're doing our job and that we are qualified for the jobs that we are doing. Any involvement by the PTA will not happen until they're back with the national PTA to make sure all laws and regulations are accounted for. Again, I go back to what I said earlier about how this seems to be just a bunch of parents that kind of want to control the school. And everybody in this, and everybody who has been a teacher before knows these types of parents where what they say goes, what they say is the best in their head, even though they don't see the entire picture. So they need to join the PTA once again, just in case there's any laws and regulations that we're not accounting for, they will be accounted for, so that we will at least have that backing, and they will have that backing as well. I will not allow them to meet with my teachers weekly. I do not like that. Our teachers are already stretched too thin. They are professionals, and these people need to trust that not only is a school board who are hiring us admin, they need to trust that the admin are hiring professional, good teachers that we trust will do the best for our kids. And obviously there's some trust issues they're having here, but if they have a real problem, they need to address the board or run for board themselves. They want to make those types of calls. The They, as parents, can set up conferences. They need to trust the, like I said, elected board, myself, and teachers to do our jobs as professionals. And here is my references.